What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Right now we are going to jump into starting the gauges. I'm gonna go ahead and start just running some lines and everything right now. It is Friday night, so I'm gonna get started on it a little early because it is beautiful out right now. As you can see, I am in short sleeves, so we are gonna just try to get a little bit of stuff done right now that'll hopefully save us some time tomorrow, because I do believe that the temperatures are gonna be a little cooler tomorrow and they're supposed to actually start to drop even more, I think, and we're gonna get some rain, possibly sleet and freezing rain. So I just wanna make sure that I'm able to get some type of a jump start on this so that I hopefully will be able to complete it all tomorrow. And it shouldn't really take me all that long. I think what's gonna take me the longest is probably just running and buttoning up where the lines and all that are gonna go, getting them all zip tied, and then just running the electrical and stuff. But otherwise, it shouldn't be that bad. I do need to actually run to the hardware store and pick up a new pen magnet, so when I drill and tap the manifold, I'm able to get all of the shavings out of that so I can hook up the probe for the EGT gauge. But other than that, I'm gonna stop talking and let's get going. Here comes the install for GlowShift gauges on a 2001 24 valve Cummins. We have boost, EGTs, and fuel pressure. Let's go. So here's our line for our fuel pressure gauge, which we don't really need this much out here under the engine bay. So what I'm gonna actually do is pull some more of this down into the cab, because this literally is only gonna have to stretch right down here. And I think what I'm gonna do is just run it right up and zip tie it to the oil dipstick right here, and then we can tuck it down underneath the intake horn, and it literally has to go right down here and plug into the VP44, because that's where I plan to... Hey, there goes someone in the old second gen Cummins. But that's where I plan, like I was saying, to hook up my fuel pressure gauge, is in the VP44, not at the bottom of the fuel filter housing. Unless for some reason I run into an issue when I go to connect the fittings, but I shouldn't, because I do already have the banjo bolt in the VP44, so I should be good to go as far as taking out that low fuel pressure alarm and then plugging in my sensor for the gauge. So what I did was run these all right along the side of the parking brake pedal. So here's the actual lever for the pedal, and this is the only moving part. And then you have this bracket. So here's the EGT line, here's the boost line, and here's the fuel pressure line. And I'm gonna get them obviously tucked in there a little bit better and zip tied so that they're out of the way. There's no chance of them getting into any moving parts and getting clipped or anything. So I got them run right down here along the front. And then if you pull this weather stripping down and out of here, they are tucked nicely in behind there, and they run right up into here, and they'll feed right into the bottom of the pod right there and come right up to each gauge. One little issue I got right now is where this plug goes to. So I need to figure that out, because I'm not sure where it goes, but it came unplugged. Apparently it must be the clip that holds the plug in, or something is busted, or it just wasn't clipped and plugged in all the way, or it was just unplugged and tucked up in there and I never noticed it until now when I was pulling these lines through and it dropped down. So I need to get in there with a flashlight tomorrow. It's a little dark under there right now, but I'll get up under there tomorrow when I'm buttoning everything up and look to see where this thing possibly goes. We have a lot of line up in here under the hood, so I'm gonna have to coil some of that up and just tuck it off to the side to clean it up so that it's not dangling around. We got this steel braided EGT line right here, and then of course we have our boost line right here, which I need to actually pull some of that up and through here so that we can reach over here to where our boost bolt adapter and fitting is gonna go for the time being. And then, like I said, when we get an aftermarket intake horn, we can always put the sensor into the intake horn and have that plugged in right here. So we won't need as much of this line. And the good thing with this boost line is it is just basically a plastic vacuum line, so you can clip this down to size. So there you go, we got the gauges in their home, and I gotta say, man, these things actually look pretty decent. I love the black face on them, and I'm glad that I did not go with the tinted lens so that you could still see the face of the gauge when they're not turned on. But we did do our EGT gauge up top, because I like I said, I want to have that one right up in my face so I can just check that, and I feel like it'd be easier to check with it up at a higher location. We went with the boost gauge right in the middle, just below the EGTs, so they can kind of go hand in hand with one another, and you're going to want to be checking them together most likely and just kind of getting readings off of one another. And then the fuel pressure is down low, so we can kind of always glance at that when we're checking our dash cluster to see how fast we're going. So that is where I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight. We have lines run through the firewall up underneath the hood, so we can close the hood down and those will be good. Tomorrow we can get out here first thing. We can get the wires for the gauges all jumped and get the wiring harness connected to those so that we can get them run to the fuse box and get power to them. And then we can go ahead and attach our boost bolt adapter. We can get the fuel pressure snubber valve and sensor all put together, get that BD low fuel pressure alarm out of the VP44 right down there. So we'll be removing this BD low fuel pressure alarm that is in this banjo bolt from the going through the feed line of the VP44, and that's where we will hook up our fuel pressure sensor. And then we will bust out the old tap and we will tap into this old crusty ugly exhaust manifold so that we can go ahead and get our pyrometer all set up and get our EGT gauge going. What's up guys, welcome back to part 2 of the GlowShift gauge install on my 2001 24 valve Cummins. As you see, we just ran up to Napa and got us a little pencil magnet so that we can get the shavings out of the exhaust manifold when we drill and tap it. We're gonna let the truck cool down right now for a little bit so I'm not rolling around in a warm engine bay, and then we're gonna get out here and finish off this gauge install. I will see you guys in a second. The truck is cooled down and we are going to actually, I think, rearrange the gauges in the pod. I'm just gonna flip-flop the boost and the EGT gauge. I'm gonna put the boost gauge up top. I'm gonna put the EGT gauge in the middle because my eyes will be more looking straight forward and it'll be easier for me to glance straight over to the middle and still kind of see out my peripherals on the road through the windshield. So we're gonna flip-flop the two. We're gonna leave the fuel pressure gauge down at the bottom because, well, like I said, I can glance up from the dash when I'm checking the speed and stuff that I'm traveling and see that. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna flip-flop them around, get the wires plugged in, and then get the wires from the gauges jumped so they're ready to go and we can run them to the fuse panel here. And then we're just gonna go ahead and wire them up and stick the wires into the fuse and then pinch them in with a fuse. And then I'll have to go to the parts store and actually pick up some expandable circuits so that we can redo that later. But that's literally something that will take like a minute to do. So for now, we'll just get them hooked up this way, and then I'll get expandable fuse circuits later on and we'll do it in a different manner then. So as you can see, I am soldering all the wires together right now and jumping them from each gauge to the 3-gauge wiring harness. I'm putting a little piece of heat shrink on each individual wire. So there's 4 wires for each gauge, a red, an orange, a yellow, and a black. As I jump them all, I'm hitting them with a torch because I can't find my soldering iron. So I'm using a little torch, touching it with the solder so that the solder will take 2 of the wires. And then I'm sliding a little piece of heat shrink up over each solder, shrinking that, and then taking 1 more and then combining them all together and heat shrinking that and wrapping them all up into one, just to keep it nice and neat and tidy. I just wanna guys, so we got the gauges all installed up in here in the truck. Pod is good to go. I gotta make a few minor tweaks and adjustments with this weather stripping. I do not have the orange wire hooked up to the black wire with the yellow stripe in it at my headlight switch yet, because I don't have the right tap for that. So I'm gonna have to get that from the parts store, but that's nothing. All I gotta do is pop off this little bezel here around the front of the dash, pop out a couple screws, this headlight switch will come out, and then I can go ahead and tap that in the correct way. The only thing that I'll be lacking not having that plugged in is the gauges will not dim down a little bit when I have the headlights on, so they will be kind of bright at night. So let's go ahead and turn the key on and see if we got power. There we go, baby. We're gonna fire her up and see what she does. That's better. We had to light them up green so they match the interior lights.
Keep it.